Hi, how are you? I miss you.
I see you every week, and yet I still feel like I don't see you.
I just want to give you a big hug. Is that weird? That's probably unprofessional. I'm just like, I'm so
No, I
happy
love
to
it.
see you.
Yeah,
I'm
me
so happy
too.
to see you. I've been like on planes and trains and on the receiving end of like that messy middle of business building when you are bringing something into the world and it's still in an unfinished state and having to have enough center of gravity to be able to withstand like naturally people who are curious and are like, well, why isn't it all done yet? Why isn't it all working and ready and completely mature? And I'm like, I want that for you. I want that for you. But we have a lot of work to do to be able to bring this thing into life. And that is exhausting. So it's nice to see you. It feels like coming into friendly zone.
Yeah, this is familiar territory here.
Yeah. Well, and also like I have to say, just psychologically, energetically, to be amongst those I can share this vision of this better future with, instead of sitting across the table with someone who you have to kind of paint the picture for them, feels really good. It's just like, oh, I can just like be with you for a second and be like, yeah, I know we're both building this thing. We're doing it together.
Yeah. You've been traveling so much lately. How has it all been?
There's highs and lows. I really don't like being in hotel rooms by myself. There's something sad about, especially for somebody who's so family oriented, like so much of my life is around like connection and, surrounding yourself with people you genuinely care about. That sitting in a hotel room by myself with my like complimentary water bottle is like, what am I doing here? So that part's hard for me. I tend to really feel it after a couple of days. And then other parts are just wild, like wild adventures into other parts of our crazy society that like I would never imagine myself hearing these stories of, but like all of those people who are building all the data centers for AI right now, they're living their own crazy adventure and they're off and they're doing all this, and just hearing about these things and sitting in these rooms with them. It's like looking into a hallway with like 1,000 other doors down it of whole other versions of reality that they're all living. So that part's kind of cool and also kind of weird, And then the one really nice thing is that it just so happened that I was traveling and it coincided with traveling to where my dad and my mom live. So even though I only got one night, getting to go pop in and surprise them, like I didn't tell them I was coming, it's just like nourishing for the soul. It's like, oh, this feels so good. This feels like exactly right. And that part's really nice, even if it's like fleeting, just like a tiny, tiny, tiny little piece of the travel. So, good and tiring all at the same time.
If you could give a summary, I guess, of the reason you've been going from New York to San Francisco these last few weeks, what's been going on with that?
Well, there's two big things driving it. The first is that one of the biggest AI conferences in the world was happening in San Francisco, and it's really important for tendercare to be in those rooms and in these spaces. We need to have access to all of the same information that those who are building these tools for many, many other things are using them for. We need to understand, on behalf of families, on behalf of the elder care industry, which of these tools we should be using to do a better job. So that was really important. Then also just one of my favorite founder friends, her name is Alexandra Mysore over at Meet Alex. She has just said so many good things about this conference and how helpful it's been for her to participate in it. So I don't go to many events, but I was like, okay, I'm going to prioritize this one. And then the second is that we are on the cusp of really going after a pretty sizable next stage of growth for the company and what it looks like to actually really build out in every single zip code, have real team members on the ground, side by side with the elder care industry. We are going to need investment and capital to do this, right? This is an investment in the future. It's an investment in our company. And so part of the last several weeks have been thinking hard about, well, what are our methods for funding that future? Who are the, upstanding partners that we might consider bringing on board with us to go out and build that? They talk about this whole landscape of like outside capital and venture capital as being this crazy crowded ballroom of people or strangers. And you have to find your dance partner in that ballroom before the music stops. And there's like hundreds and hundreds of people around you. And so part of the last couple of weeks was me starting to walk into that ballroom and like scoping it out and checking out like, okay, who do I think tendercare's dance partners might be as we go out and we build together? And had a lot of really great conversations. And some of that you just can't do on Zoom. You got to just go out and meet people where they are and spend time with them and ask really good questions and get a sense for, what are the values that someone might have? Does it feel like it aligns with our values, with our vision of what we know needs to exist? So a lot of that, a lot of being open to the outside world, and bittersweetly kind of taking some time away from the normal workings of operating and working with a team to go out and represent our company and also meet all of these different individuals, learn from the industry, what's happening, and bringing that all back to mission control with all of us on the team and thinking about what do we do with this? How does this inform our next step and our next plan of action?
When you're trying to find a dance partner and you're also thinking about the team and payroll and then also the families that we serve, do you ever get tempted to play by a dance partner's values because you really need the capital?
I can say this definitively. It is super painful when you're in that spot, if you need capital, to say no to a partner that's not aligned, but I've done it before 2 times. Doesn't make it any less scary the next time around, right? Because my chief job is to always make sure that there is a path forward for us to deliver on our vision. But I think that pressure starts to lessen when we have all these like amazing customers and you have real revenue that's coming in. It really balances out the need for capital. It becomes less a question of like survival and more like, is this the right fit? Is this who we want? Does this help us accelerate what we were trying to do? But there's like in the same way, think about just meeting friends or think about meeting people out in your community. How many times a day are you coming across people who clearly don't have the same value system as you? A lot, right? This is like more normal actually than it is to find someone who you're like, oh, wow, we are simpatico. It's way more normal to be sort of like, oh, we're kind of aligned here, but totally misaligned there, And so part of this is kind of having the instinct to understand, like, what are you looking for? What does, can you cut down that search a little bit? And then also, how effectively can we communicate our values and see if someone's like, okay, I'm locking into that. That makes sense. And that's my job.
Yeah. I think it's very similar to building a brand online and being a quote unquote influencer. At the beginning, when people are willing to throw money at you, sometimes life-changing money, but you're talking about something that you don't fully believe in, there was always that temptation for me to take it because it said like the money is great. But I think when you've built an audience for yourself and you have these families that trust you enough to follow whatever it is that you say and promote, you're the way that you're able to choose a dance partner becomes so much more based on the evidence that you've already built for the platform you have. So that's what it sounds like, because we have paying customers and this vision that has been built out over the many years that you've been working on tendercare. It's way easier to like find the right dance partner versus just getting a dance partner to hurry up and dance with because the music's about to end.
Well, and also like if you were to apply this to something like, dating or marriage, like that's just a bad strategy. It's like, this person wants to, and like, I don't want to do it, but I guess maybe I have to. Like that is not going to end well. Right. So I think it's also like self-preservation, like it might look good right now, but you already kind of know it's not going to go well. And I don't think you're going to escape that one without it being way worse if you go down that road. Right. So, I think it's very similar, building a business. This is like, it's a living, breathing thing. It's not something that's static on a shelf. It's a vessel for people, for an idea, for a future. And it needs nurturing. It needs tending to, it needs steering and guiding and shaping and correcting. And so you need the right gardeners for that. And it's pretty clear when you're in the presence of one and when you're not also.
Can we talk about tenderID real quick? Because that has been something that's been ramping up more and more lately with the team behind the scenes and in front. I've seen that you've met with your hometown fire county talking about getting tenderIDs in the community. Can you just talk about what's going on with tenderID?
Yeah. I mean, our vision is to make we're starting with seniors, but it shouldn't just be for seniors, but to make every senior across the country emergency ready, right? This is just good. It's really good to make sure that those who are standing by to drop in and help, emergency medical services, fire departments, paramedics, they have the information they need to be able to give our seniors the right care if and when they need it. This is just good for everyone. So it's really exciting to be in a position now where we can now go out, meet with these different communities, departments, and be their partner in helping bring this to life. I'm so proud of the tenderID. Like I'm so proud of having made something so simple. Like the fact that we can give these away for free and that they will save lives is like the coolest innovation ever. Like that just doesn't happen very often, right? Like usually, if you're going to do something that great, it's going to cost so much money at the same time, right? Those two things usually go hand in hand, super expensive and like high value. So for us to be in a position to have created and designed, and this goes to the team, and also to our partners who have like really flagged this being an area that needs better innovation, to have come up with something so simple and yet so sturdy. That's something, we should all, I hope, carry with us for the rest of our lives. That's when invention is at its finest, right? You find a way to do something great with almost nothing. That's so cool. So this is all to say, I love that we're going out and we're getting tenderIDs into everybody's purses, into everybody's wallets, into everybody's refrigerators, helping them, so that when the moment comes, they're ready for it. So we'll be making tons of noise about this, producing these, putting out a lot of partnerships to get these across America.
Yeah, it's definitely a signal that we've seen. It's a clear indicator that people are very interested. I mean, from the very first video we put out about tenderID, it exploded, and rightfully so, because it's an amazing, simple piece of tech that everyone can understand immediately.
Yeah, and how cool to be able to even set these up for your family members and be like, I've got you, even when I'm not in the room with you, even when I'm not there, I've still got you, and I think one of the coolest parts of this is you don't even need to be tech savvy to have this work for you. You can have someone set one of these up for you, and now it's just in your wallet. Now, it's on your fridge. You never need to even push a single button. Your family can do this for you. That's cool. That's how tech should work, right? Meet people where they are, make it simple, make it cheap, have it, if you can, have it save your life. So yeah, I'm really proud of this. And I hope that this, continues to be the go-to way that first responders can continue to support people in moments of crisis. And it's exciting. We're in the early innings of rolling this out across the country.
And by the way, for something to be so simple, and this is a theme that we talk about often, for something to be simple to use and easy to understand, it is not easy to get to that conclusion. We have iterated on tenderID. I mean, before I even came onto the team, it being Magic Magnet, it's had so many iterations since then. And something that really resonated with people on your LinkedIn was the post about you talking about how companies that are constantly updating UIs, and actually they're making it more difficult for seniors because they can't keep up as quick as it's updating. So could you talk a little bit about how we're trying to keep it simple, but how difficult it is also to keep it simple?
Yeah. I mean, simplicity is the ultimate thoughtfulness, right? And so it requires so much concentration to be simple. I always can tell when I'm in the presence of a really, really smart person because there's no gap between what they're saying and what I understand. They just say it in the most simple terms. I was just at a conference, the one I'm talking about, where Jensen Huang, the CEO for NVIDIA, was talking about like what AI is. And everybody, you're hearing this term all over the place. It's like, it feels super buzzy and nobody really knows what it means. And what he says on stage is, well, AI is really just software that can use other software. It's a software that now is able to take all the tools we're used to using and it will do it on our behalf. And I was like, yeah, that is what AI is, And so to that point, simplicity is really tough, though. Not everybody can get there. So this is a dedication on our part to just keep hearing the feedback, watch where it could be more simple on tenderID, keep pushing, keep looking at the data, keep being in the room when someone is trying to activate one of these. And along the way, amassing a body of knowledge and expertise about how to perfect this, right? It's the pursuit of making this the absolute most simple it can be in delivering its promise. You see artists who get older, like Van Gogh or Picasso truly, where along his life, he just gets simpler and simpler and simpler with what he is sketching, to the point where, I saw a sketch he did once of a dog, and it's literally a single line, and it just kind of like goes like this, but you immediately know it's a dog. I think it's like a wiener dog, and like took the man probably 40 years to get there. So, if it works for Picasso, we gotta keep going with tenderID. We're definitely not done. We probably have, a couple hundred more versions in us yet to go, before this thing feels like we've done everything we can to strip out all the noise.
I'm so curious about this conference that you attended. It sounds like you met a lot of people. And was there anything that surprised you about the conference, or any key takeaways that you took away that were like, wow, this is a really interesting space to be in?
I mean, you can feel the energy. First, it's like, it's not even what people say. You can feel this hum of energy and velocity around how much this technology is already at the heart of transforming industries, ways of doing things, business. It's almost on a visceral animal level. You can feel it when you're in the room with so many of these people. But when I think about what was shared, what was talked about, there's one person who has been sort of considered the godmother of AI, who was at the conference. Her name is Fei Li. She just started her own frontier lab. And one of the things that she talks about is, when we really look at evolution and we look at how, us humans got here, it really started with coming out of the ocean. And, at that point, there was basically amphibious fish, long time ago. Rewind the tapes. And when you really started to see evolution pick up, it was when animals started to get sight and sound and understood their surroundings. And her point was that spatial intelligence is actually this much more complex, interesting intelligence to be building towards. And where AI started, or generative AI started, was with chat, right? It's ChatGPT. Here's how we can talk and, kind of chat back and forth and access all of the internet that's been ingested into these models. And what she was sharing was what's really hard to do, and what she's working on is this spatial intelligence. What does it mean to actually be picking up on so many things inside of a room, in physical space, the distance between things? I thought that was really interesting in terms of its implications for those of us who are caring for our family, because care happens in spaces. It happens in our homes. It happens in how we navigate to getting our groceries. It happens in how we think about getting to the doctors. And it's just got my mind spinning a little bit on, what are the applications of like a more intelligent context around space for us. I don't know how that translates into future features, but I'm already starting to think about things like, how can we empower a family to do a home safety initial check of their loved one's home when they're home for Thanksgiving? Or, things that are fast that would give you an immediate clear sign, like, hey, here are some things that are going to need help. Like, this is like clear warning signs. I don't know if we're there yet, but we're quickly getting to places in which we'll be able to capture more space to have conversations around how we provide better and more care. And we're seeing a lot of this even with some technologies that are coming out with like ambient monitoring, when someone falls, being able to pick up on some of this and being able to step in and provide care at that moment. So I think we're going to see a lot more of that. And just hearing Fei talk about it in that way, that's one of the biggest things I've been sitting with for us. What does this mean for us as we keep building out, this front door for care? How do we incorporate space into that conversation at some point?
When you're at a conference like this, HumanX, by the way, I don't think we've said the name of the conference, but when you're at a conference like this, do you struggle with trying to find the real world applicability of all of these amazing tools that people are talking about? Like with care specifically?
I mean, there's not a lot of people who are in this zone, at least not meeting yet at the application layer. Like they talk about like a 5-layer cake. So you need all your infrastructure, and application is at the top, right? And so I didn't see a lot of innovators or builders who are thinking about how to turn this around and bring this back, to particular use cases like care, intergenerational care. Saw a lot of automation of existing departments. So still like an enterprise sort of software as a service play. Like, hey, how to use this for customer service. So instead, what I was doing was I was sitting in those rooms and I was just thinking about how do I translate some of these innovations to the way that we think about building features for our families, for our trusted network. One of them was in customer service. And I thought it was really interesting to hear from some of those larger companies in the room, how they were thinking about getting to resolution and automation when someone has a problem, or, which I think of more as like there's confusion or they need better clarity, they'll often call customer service. And so they were talking about the application of AI towards resolving a lot of these questions, these misunderstandings much more efficiently, faster. And I raised my hand. I'm always the first one to raise my hand in these rooms.
Always,
I'm like,
by the way.
Yeah, I'm like, hey, pick up. And I was like, hey, look, we've got a lot of people on our platform who prefer phone. Like they don't want to do this on a screen. They actually would prefer to call. How should we be thinking about applying AI to bringing in, a phone channel for everyone to be able to do a lot of this work? And one of the sort of roundtable attendees, I don't remember what her name is, which I feel bad about, but she talked about how actually what's great is being able to monitor those questions that are coming in on phone calls to then build out more FAQ documents, to build out better service delivery, better features, because the questions coming in, you can go upstream on and solve for them much sooner. And how it's not always about having an AI person in the phone. It's more about using that as a signal for what's not working in some of your other product offerings, your other services. I was like, oh, that's kind of an interesting one. Anytime I hear something like a little more nuanced like that, that gives me a lot of ideas for how we can really plug in and think about, well, if we allow everybody to give, call us with their intake instead of doing it online, how does that actually help in all parts of tender care? So I'm thinking a lot about that.
Yeah. And the reason I ask about application is because I think about the young Chris out there who is hearing about all of these tools, and automation for customer service sounds great. I'm not denying the fact that it could be extremely helpful for a business, but as a caregiver, the only thing, and maybe this is me having a limiting belief, but the only thing that could have saved me during that time, during when it was really intense, was just having a clone of myself in the room so that I could take a break. And I've seen so many DMs from people saying that I am the sole caregiver for my mother or my father or whoever it is. I can't afford to hire a caregiver to come in. So I'm always thinking about those people when we talk about AI and how much more efficient it's going to make businesses run. But what does that mean for the family who can't take advantage of these tools in the way that we might be at tendercare? Like, what does that implication mean for the family, the solo caregiver? So that's what I was curious about.
I know. If anything, I think that we're the ideal use case for AI, right? Because to your point, all we want to do is replicate ourselves. Yeah. Everybody else is like so worried, AI is going to take everything from me. And I'm like, can I have 10 of me, please? Like yesterday, because we're trying to do this Herculean amount of work. We're trying to be everywhere all at once. And that's today it's physically impossible unless we had 10 Chris's running around doing a whole bunch of things. So I think there's such an opportunity to have AI actually help all of us in being efficient and showing up for the things that matter and getting rid of the time killing things that we still have to do that are not serving us right now, like scheduling, filling out forms. You show me somebody who's like, man, I'm really going to miss that. No, that is not a good use of our life. Right. So, how do we sick some of these new powerful tools on that so that you can show up for your family and you can be there in the room with them and you're not sitting there on your phone or trying to do something and you're distracted because you're multitasking. This is literally me in my life all day long. But I want this for all of us, right? I want this for all of us, this weird sort of, multitasking, you're there, but you're not there. Wouldn't it be nice to not feel that pressure or have to live that way? We've all been living that way for years and years. And I think what's really cool about what we're doing in tendercare is it doesn't have to be to someone who has infinite means. So basically all of our tools are for everybody. These are built beautifully for everyone. You don't have to pay for them, right? And so instead, if anything, it's how can we make sure about some of these programs that your family might already be eligible for that are just sitting there for you, like Guide, the dementia program. You get literally thousands of dollars into your family's pocket for providing better care for your loved one. That's meant for everybody. And there's a whole bunch of programs like that. And I think that's where the promise of building in the way we're building, which is very intentionally, thinking through how can we build great connection points to the industry, to Medicare, so that we can offer this democratically to all families who are going through this. There's a place and there's value on tender care for everybody. I believe very strongly in that our desire to help those in our family or our community when they're sick, when they're frail. That should be a basic human right, the same way like clean air or water or, so many of these essential rights that we consider kind of fundamental to what it means to be participating in a healthy society. Our ability to care for our frail and our weak and our elderly, or even quite frankly for ourselves, we should all be empowered to do that. And it shouldn't be based off of how much we have in the bank to be able to make a lot of these smart choices for ourselves. Just makes sense. It just makes sense on so many levels. So like, I really want to get away. I know we're not there yet. It's not how this industry has run up until now. I really want to get away from this being a game of the haves and have-nots. We're all human. We all love who we love. We all feel responsible to who we feel responsible to. And it should just be a whole lot easier for us to all do that in whatever way makes sense for us.
Speaking of being responsible to people, you're responsible for building, you're responsible for your team at tendercare. And also you have a reality at home where you're balancing taking care of children and having relationships and then also having family in San Francisco. How? I guess it's how?
I mean, it definitely felt a little more laid back when I think back on my like early 20s. I'm like, wow, God, I had no idea how much free time I had. Like, what was I even doing with myself back then? I'm like, I literally had nothing to do and no one to be accountable to. It's a crazy zone in life, and it kind of just like turns up the heat on you slowly. You start adding one more family member here, another kid here. You start getting one more parent who needs your help there. And all of a sudden you're like, boom, 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 boom. And your whole day gets stacked up. I have been really trying to do a lot of work on how do I stay resilient and process stress and anxiety, because I think it's just natural. It's like a natural outcome of feeling responsible for other people. And so getting a high dose of that. And I'll be honest, like sometimes it feels like a lot. Like last night I was up at 3:30 in the morning and I couldn't go back to bed because I was just like, my mind was just going. And that's not helpful for me. But I haven't perfected it, especially when it's sometimes more stressful than other times. But I do think being conscious of it and knowing, hey, this is a pretty high intensity chapter of life that I'm moving through. So what am I going to do to create infrastructure around my self-support? I don't always get it right though, and I wish I could say it was more comfortable than it is. Sometimes it feels really impossible, but also nothing stays the same forever. Right. And so anytime I start to feel pretty overwhelmed or like, wow, I have it so hard, my kid is sick and it feels like a million days off for a break with no school, literally. But I just try and remind myself that it's all fleeting and there's not much of it. And even if it's stressful, it's still so beautiful. And anytime that I get with my family or working on something I care about and working with people I respect is a blessing and a joy and a privilege. So it's kind of like, being in like a really hard workout class or something. And you're just like, sucking wind and super tired, but you're like, oh, but I know it's going to feel so good later. And just try to like stay in the game long enough for that to hit. And it eventually does. But, it's a balancing act.
Do you ever struggle with being where your feet are and like just being in whatever moment that you're in and not in 3 other rooms that you could be in?
What a great way to say that. Be where your feet are. I love that. I'm stealing that. I don't even know if it's a struggle so much as like, I'm almost never where my feet are. Like I wish I could say I'm even struggling. The battle is so lost, It's like gone. I mean, first and foremost, I think my head is always in the clouds. Like I'm always dreaming about what's possible. And I'm always thinking about the world that doesn't exist yet that should. So already I have a hard time with being where my feet are. But then, yeah, just like the normal crazy crush of shoot, I forgot I had to do this or I got to do that. Let me just like get this one last thing in means that oftentimes I feel like I'm being pulled in a bunch of different directions when, the show is right in front of me and, it would be so much better to be present. Anyone who out there is able to be where their feet are, please share. Are you able to do this, Chris? Give me some tips. What do I need to do?
Well, I ask you that because I have tried to make it a priority in my life this year. I was very intentional about that at the beginning of the year. I'm not doing a great job. It's because my head's always in the clouds too. I'm always in 4 other places that I'm thinking about and also with you here in this moment. But technically I'm not with you in this moment if I'm in sick, if I'm in other places. But that's why I enjoy running so much, specifically having really tough running sessions, because in those sessions, I have nothing else to think about but trying to catch my breath and think about, wow, this sucks so much. And I have no capacity to think about anything else. And at the end of it, I appreciate it because I was where my feet were, literally. Like I could not think about anything else. And I asked you that because, I don't know, maybe you figured out a hack to like just be in the moment, which I don't really like that saying. Maybe that's why I like be where your feet are more than be in the moment, because I hear that so often. But if you can't appreciate what is currently in front of you, and we understand that these moments are fleeting, where were we really? What did we actually experience?
I know. It's such a great reminder. And it's a practice. I think it's a daily practice. I don't think it's like, oh, you got it locked and now you're just sensei and just cruising, and only right here. I think you kind of have to figure out how do you remind yourself, and life is always going to knock us off balance. There's always going to be some new change, and sometimes it's interesting and sometimes it's hard. And how do we regain and recalibrate? I think running is a great way to do it. I'm excited. I mean, one of the things that's hard to do is when you're traveling, go running. So I'm excited to get back into it now for a little while. And I'm excited when we go out on the road together to go running together. We're going to have to time some morning runs, or even you do morning runs. We're going to have to do some early morning runs together.
Yeah. How much have you ran since? I know you've talked a lot about running with your dad and that has really molded you into the person you are today. Have you been able to tap back into that younger, like I get to run all the time, Shauna?
Now that it's getting warmer, yes. I'm not a good cold weather runner. Like it's just not in my DNA. I'm like, what is this? Like it's snow everywhere. I'm like, I don't really play in that. I try and do yoga and other things while it's so cold out. But now that it's getting warm out, the running shoes are back. I'm ready to go out and do this. I also just like love running with music. I don't know about you. It's so fun. It just feels like it really just amplifies the whole experience. So I love getting out there and putting on like a happy playlist and just going. And you're right. It's very hard to not be present when you're making sure you don't fall over a rock. Right? You gotta
which
you're really engaged.
That's a real experience for you.
Which we know I have done and broken my hand while running. So like the risk is real.
Which is funny to injure a body part that you're not technically using while running, but I guess, if
there's a will, there's a way. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I wanted to ask you this. Do you ever find comfort in hearing others who are on a similar journey as you? Do you ever find comfort in hearing their stories? Like, and in hearing how they deal with being a caregiver maybe, and also leading a company and building?
I love hearing other people's stories. I think it gives such a window into this human connection and shared humanity that you don't often get at least in a professional setting. People aren't usually willing to open up. But then when we're talking about taking care of our grandparents or our parents. Like you get a different window into people. So I love connecting on that. I don't hear a lot of other people starting businesses who are actively caregiving. So I would love to hear more of those, I get a few. I'll get people who used to be caregiver and then now they're out and they're devoting themselves to building for others. I don't get a lot of like, I'm doing it right now. I ran into one today, which was really cool. This woman who is over at this healthcare company. It's like navigating care. And I was surprised. She was like, "Oh, I've been taking care of my dad for 8 years." And I was like, "Oh, wow, cool." And that's like one of the first times in a while. So that was really nice. I can't wait to, we've got a follow-up meeting next week. I can't wait to kind of stay connected to her because I think it's a small group of us who are talking about it. There's probably a lot more of us who are out there, but it's a really small group of us who actually talk about it.
That's a great point because that's the reason. That's the whole reason I asked that is because I'm still surprised by how many people are going through this caregiving journey currently. Not just previously, currently. I still get shocked by DMs that I get from people and comments that I see in your comment section of people saying, "Oh my goodness, I am in the same boat and we've been in this boat for 10 plus years and I've never seen anybody talk about it." I don't know if it's, probably because it's not the most fun thing to talk about. But I ask that because I think that's why it is so important, at least for me, to put on my journalist hat when I'm with you, because I think so many people get value from hearing how you are doing all of this and still caring for people that you love. So.
Oh, I'm so glad that we get to be on the front tier of normalizing this. It's so normal. And Chris, you're doing this too. Like, I'm so impressed. So much coverage over the last couple of weeks of just what it means to be caring for your grandma and coming out with your own authentic experience around that and using it as an opportunity to talk about this. And like, what a crazy privilege to be giving everyone else permission to be having these conversations, which are not always easy and which require a lot of, I'm sure, strength and, real centered, like kind of perspective on your part to be able to do and to hold. So I'm just taking cues from you, my friend. Like, okay, let's go. Let's talk about it, and trust the process.
Yeah. And by the way, I mean, it's not an easy thing to talk about. I mean, when we first met, up until that point, talking about your caregiving story with your dad isn't something that you were really like broadcasting on let me be on every podcast to talk about my story. So kudos to you for just opening up and willing to share the story more and more. Because I know that it can be really uncomfortable sometimes to talk about something that there are parts of it that are painful and there are parts of it that are honorable in a way. But I know that it's not easy.
I mean, yeah, you really pushed me. I think it was like on the beginning of like some of my slide decks or in my about me and my bio on the company website. And, that's kind of as far as it went. So really pulling on that and, sharing the experience of what it's like. It's not a space I would have originally gone to because I think there's a lot of questions that I wasn't sure I had the right answers to. Like, what are you allowed to talk about when you're talking about taking care of someone else? Like, what's their agency in that story? How much do I own of my experience in taking care of my dad? There's no like playbook. There's no like, oh, this is the way, this is good and this is bad. And so I think, in the uncertainty in that, it becomes silence. It's like, well, I don't know what's allowed and what I might be crossing a line on. And so I'll just not talk about it at all, which is not helpful for anybody. And then there's also just parts of it that and at least in the beginning was worried about, I remember I took some time off when my dad was first diagnosed and I and my brother and my dad, we went on a trip together, and we knew it was probably going to be one of our last trips together. And I had to share this with my boss. I was taking some leave to go and do this with him. And no one ever said anything to me, but I was just like, oh, I've had this feeling like, oh, that's not a good enough reason to be taking time off work. Like, what are you doing? You're going on vacation, even though this is going to be like the last trip I ever take with my dad. I was like ashamed and embarrassed about it. And, we're often our own worst critics. We just give them rent in our head. And I was sitting there even on that vacation, and I could just hear people in my head. Nobody actually said this to me, being like, oh, she's not as serious about being at work. Like, what is she doing going off with her dad? Must be nice. And now as I'm even talking to you about that, I'm like, that's crazy. Like, that's crazy. These are like real policies that are there for a reason. And why wouldn't I take, it was the last trip I took with my dad. That was it. And I just think we have a lot of limiting beliefs. We've got a lot of critics in our head, and we've got a lot of things that we think are not going to be justified that come to care, because nobody's ever really helped build a playbook around this, And so that often leads to silence. I think it leads to hiding things. It leads to not telling these stories, for fear of some sort of backlash in some way of what it's going to mean on us, which is crazy, because it's literally we're laboring to help take care of, our family. This is not like we're slacking off and like going off and, just being unserious, but somehow we kind of bucket it into that. And, I don't think we do ourselves any favors.
Definitely not. We definitely don't do ourselves
right. Like, what is that?
Favors. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
Just to round out the point of crossing the line. I live in this world of, am I crossing the line or not, with telling the story of being a caregiver, and how much agency do I actually have of telling my story and my grandmother's story. I've had this conversation. I probably have this conversation 3 times a day with myself. So it's something that I think about often.
Like,
I guess I lean on my intentions. What is my intention behind telling my story? And am I being truthful? And I'm always coming from a place of honesty and just trying to help the people who are in it and the people who are going to go through it. Because I fully believe that everybody will experience caregiving in some capacity at some point in their life. This is a conviction that I've had for a very long time. And with every single person that I meet, they have their own caregiving story, whether they were the full-time caregiver or they were there on the weekends or whatever it is. So I just lean on my intentions, and I know that not everybody will understand that, and I don't know the right and wrong. I don't know if I'm right about that or not. I'm just doing the best that I can and trying to be of service to people. So that's where I've landed.
That's beautiful. That's a very simple and wonderful framework. I think that's the right one. That feels like the right one. It's we talk about, the best thinkers are the ones who make it easy. I think you fall into that category, my friend. I'm going to start borrowing that framework too. I'm like, yeah, that's a great one. What are my intentions with this? And then it's green light, red light.
Yeah. Is there anything that you are super excited about with tendercare coming up in these next couple months, in the next year? What's something that you're over the moon about right now?
Like,
besides everything.
We're doing it. Like, we are going to be going into every town, every city. We are going to be putting blinking lights out there around what we have built for families, of like coming to us to find help. We are going to be adding really, really cool people to our team to help us do this work. And I can feel it. Like, I can feel it. This next wave is going to be so much fun, because this is where all of this hard work we've been putting in around building the infrastructure, finding the right professionals, figuring out how to organize all of this, making national partnerships come together, figuring out how we build the tech so that, all of these government programs and Medicare can be translated into something easier for families to engage in. Like, we've done the work, and now it's about actually giving this to everyone. That is cool. So a lot of work on making sure everybody knows about tendercare. That is going to be a big part of the next leg of the journey. And then doing some really cool things on the platform, making it super, super easy to figure out how you can kind of get in and make really important decisions around what your family needs, what professionals you need, what services, what devices. It's a little potential hint coming of some things that are going to make it even easier. And then how can you get back out and go live your life and then come back again when you need the next thing? And by the way, we're going to make it so easy that you don't even need to think about, oh, I need the next thing. We're going to be there and already anticipate and start helping educate, all of our families on our platform of like, hey, you know what? Here's a good time for you to be like really thinking through how you make, your home or your mom's home or your grandma's home more safe, right? For the next leg. This part's going to be really important. It's going to save you, that horrible, fall trip to the ER. Now's the time to get some of this done. And here's who you should be doing that with. That's super cool. So we're going into growth, like real growth. This is where it becomes pretty mainstream. So our next chapter is going to be seeing a lot of the fruits of some very, very hard work our team has been doing and just watching as we actually help millions of families with what we've built. That is cool. That's going to be fun, and being able to enjoy watching that impact ripple across the country. I'm looking forward to that. I'm super excited about that part. Even as tired as I am on the other side of a business, business trip, I'm like, oh, that got me like fired up. I can't wait.
Yeah, super exciting. Cool. Thanks, Shauna.
Thanks, Chris.